I'm Laura McBride and welcome to my form fitting workshop. In this workshop I'm going to teach you how to pick a form and also how to fit a form, not only to a normal nail but also nail biters. I really hope you enjoy this workshop, so let's get started. Hi everyone and welcome to my form fitting workshop. So in this workshop I'm going to show you all the different forms that can be used to create sculpted enhancements. So the form world can be a bit of a minefield because there are so many on the market, and just looking at them it can be really difficult to even begin to decide which ones to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through what to look for in a form to get the best out of your enhancement. So you have two different types of form in that these are all salon style forms. So these all go up to a 6, okay? And by that I mean the length. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the form, okay? And you also have extreme length forms. So this one goes up to a 7, this one goes up to a 16, and this one also goes up to a 16. So these are all various different brands. This is Aces and Dolls, this one is Kirsty Meakin, this one is Nail Gaga, and then we have also got in the salon forms the CJP Nail Systems, the ASP Nail Systems, and the Manicure Company. Okay, so I'm just going to run through the difference in these forms. So the first thing that you will notice is that they are all different shapes, in that the sides of the forms are all different. Okay, so you've got your butterfly here, you've got your curved ones, and you also get a lot more basic forms that are literally just quite square, which normally people get in their training kits. So I would steer well clear of those, because having a winged side does help you fit the form that little bit easier to your client's nail. So you will also notice that each of these forms has a grid system. Now the grid system on every form is completely different, okay? But what that allows you to do is to line up the form on your client's nail, okay? So when you take off that tab there, these here allow you to line it up central to your client's nail. And then you have also got your length in your grid system as well. So you have got these horizontal lines coming across here, which enable you to sculpt out the nail to whichever length your client wants. Now the grid system can be quite daunting, but it is there to help you, okay? And you can see on this one quite clearly, you've also got your shape guidelines, okay? So when you pop this on your client's nail, you have, if I just bend that, you'll be able to see it a bit better. You have your guidelines here to be able to create a shape. Now, these two both have the triangular shape, so this is great for almond and stilettos, but this one here has more of a curved shape. Now you have got your guides in here to be able to line it up on your client's nail. You've got your grid system for your length, and then you have also got that rounded shape. So personally, these are my favorite forms to use in a salon environment, because they have got that salon style grid system. Now you've also got forms that are different in material that they're made from. So these are paper forms, but they all have that plastic coating. So this is great when you're coming to work with your acrylic, because it means that your acrylic will sit on there really nice and smooth. You'll get a really nice smooth underbelly of the nail, but they're not fully plastic. So with these, they are that little bit more sturdy because they're made from paper, so that they stay where you put them when you put them on your client's nail. And that's really, really important when it comes to sculpting out, because the last thing you want is to be putting your form on and then that moving during the application of your acrylic, because that will move the sculpt of the enhancement and distort the shape. Okay, the other thing to look for is the tab. So both of these tabs on here are ovals, and this one is pre-tailored, which I'll get onto in a minute. So the tab, when it's removed, creates that curve that you put into the top of the nail, into the hyponychium underneath the free edge, and it allows you to get a really nice snug fit. But on my CJP form, this one is pre-tailored, so it's slightly more elongated, so it's great for clients that have that extended hyponychium. And by having the pre-tailor here, it means that you get a really nice snug fit underneath the nail, which I'll be showing you a little bit later on. The other thing to look for in a form, so we've spoken about the shape, okay, we've spoken about the grid system, we've spoken about your template to be able to do the shape of your client's nail to, and we've spoken about the tab. The other thing to look for is to make sure that if I show you on this one, make sure that the back end of your form is perforated. So you have already got, if I just take this one off and take the tab off, you have already got that perforation in there, which allows you to open up the back end of your form. Now, if you haven't got that perforation on your form, it does mean that for every form you have to go in and cut it, okay? Now, that's absolutely fine, you can cut it, but you do need to bear in mind that that will take up more of your service time, having to go in and cut the back end of every single form. Okay, so just think about that when you come to picking your forms. Now, while I've got this one off, you can see it's slightly more floppy than this form. So you can see how one is slightly sturdier than the other. Now, if you have got a form, I'm just going to pop that one back. If you have got a form that hasn't quite, or even a plastic form that hasn't got quite enough structure to it, what you will need to do is to take that tab and pop it central, not overlapping, to your grid system. Okay, and by doing that, when you put it on the nail, it gives you that little bit more structure to your form, so it's not going to move or bend or create a imperfection in your enhancement. So I'm just going to pop that one back on. So these two are very, very similar in the way that they are designed, okay? But like I say, it is personal preference to what form you choose. Now I'm just gonna pop those to one side and just show you these extreme length forms. So again, on all of them, you have got this grid system, which enables you to line it up to your client's nail, also to be able to decide on your length and use as a guide. But the grid system does go up to a 16, okay? So they are a lot longer. If I pop this one next to it, you can see that they are double the length to be able to create that stiletto shape. Now, both of these have the perforated back end, okay? And they also have that pre-tailored tab, but they also have a perforation. If I just take this one off, they also have a perforation here. So you can, if you're not using them for an extreme length, take this off, discard it, put it to one side, and then you have got a salon style form, okay? So these are great if you're doing competitions or if you're doing salon style nails, because you can just tear that away and give yourself a salon style form. But for me, personally, I think that's a massive waste of half of a form. So I do keep my competition, so I'll just show you here. You've got that pre-tailored tab, okay, and then you have got that perforation in here where you can take that away and create a salon length form. But it is a massive waste of a product. So personally, I keep my competition forms separate and I keep my salon forms for the salon, because it is just absolute sacrilege to throw half of this beautiful form away. Okay, so I'm going to pop the competition ones to one side. And the last thing you need to think about when you are choosing form is how sticky they are. Now, this is a very personal preference, but you need to get the right amount of adhesive. So, through experience, I know that the ASP forms are super, super sticky. You can see that, look, my fingers are proper stuck. With the manicure companies, again, they're sticky but not as sticky, and they are just the right amount for holding the form onto your client's nail, but also not leaving a residue when you come to take it off. And the CJP nail systems, for me, are just the perfect amount of stick, because they're nice and rigid. They hold onto your client's finger to allow you to put the enhancement on, and they do not leave a residue of the paper on your client's nails. Okay, so all in all, the things you need to look for when choosing a form is your grid system, the guide for your nail shape, okay, the wings, that they are big enough to be able to come round and fix like so underneath your client's finger, the perforation on the back end, and if you can get ones that are pre-tailored, again, that's going to cut down your service time and allow you to get your enhancements done a lot quicker, rather than having to pre-tailor every single form that you put on your client's nails. So that completes how to choose a form. Like I say, it can be an absolute minefield, but once you find a form that you like, you do tend to stick with it. So I have got my CJP forms here, which I use all day, every day within the salon environment. So I'm now going to go through how to fit your form. Okay, so the first thing I do is take my form off of the back layer, and I always keep this backing paper because it's great for if you're sculpting and doing competition pieces to be able to work on. Now, the CJP forms are sturdy enough to not have to put your tab in this back area. If your forms are like, for example, the ASP forms, then I would always recommend stick your tab in that back area just to give it that little bit more structure, okay? So I don't ever feel the need to do that with my CJP forms. And the first thing I do is open up the back end, okay? Because it allows you that little bit more freedom and movement in order to be able to fit your form. I then roll my form between my thumbs along this center line, just to give me a little bit of a curve, because obviously this is flat and we want to create that curve of your client's nail. Now, when you're looking at your client's nail, you need to take into account their natural C curve, okay? So Shelley's natural C curve is really quite flat, so I don't have to go in too hard and do this. If she had more of a C curve in her natural nail, then I would really go in and bend this as much as I can to be able to fit that form in, okay? The next thing you need to look at is the central line of your client's finger. So a lot of people make the mistake of just going to the nail. So the central line of Shelley's nail is here, okay? But if we look at her finger, if I continue that line down, it's not central to her finger here. Okay, so you need to fit your form from this knuckle here, coming up, down that center line of her finger, and then coming down onto her nail. So it's only about 1 millimeter out, but that's really, really important when you're fitting your form, because the last thing you want, if you fit it to the nail and this nail is coming this way, when she puts her hand flat, this nail would be curving out round this way. You want it central to her whole finger, so when she puts her nails down like these are, they are all sitting nice and straight, okay? So that's the first thing to take into consideration. So once you've drawn, obviously in your mind's eye, you don't want to be drawing like this on your clients. Once you've drawn in your mind's eye where that central point is, you take that central point of your form and you line it up. So I'm going to tuck this in, making sure that I've tucked in down those side walls, okay, and line it up with that central point. And what you will find, especially on CJP forms, if you've got like these yellow lines here, you should have, I've got 1, 2, 3, I'm on 3.5, and then I should be the same here. So 1, 2, 3.5 on this side where it's meeting the side walls. And I'm looking at that. So 1, 2, 3 here. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3 here. So your form should be meeting the client's side walls at the same point, okay, and that will give you the perfect form fit. Now the other thing you don't want to do is this, where the enhancement is coming down, okay, otherwise you'll get a hooked enhancement, and you don't want to be doing this where your enhancement is turning up. You need this to be super straight, so you've got these lines here, here, and also here, and it's this side wall line that you want that to line up with. Okay, you do not want to be angling your form. If you angle your form, your enhancement is going to be angled and the balance of the enhancement is going to be all out. Okay, so I'm just going to roll this form, pop it back on, making sure I'm lined up both sides, and then I'm going to fold it round. Okay, but I'm not bending it just yet, and I need to get rid of this gap here. Alright, so we've got a gap here and it's not fitting nice and snug. If we left that gap here, our acrylic or gel would seep underneath there, give us a ridge, and the enhancement would be really ugly underneath, which we don't want. Okay, so I'm going to pop my form on. Just adhere it slightly here, okay, and then I'm going to pop my thumb underneath the form, lift it and tuck it in. So I'm just undoing that back end, lifting and tucking, and using my fingers either side to pull and fit that form. So we have now got no gap whatsoever, and it's really nice and snug. Now before I close my tabs, I also want to make sure that this here is straight with the lines on my guide of my form, which it is, okay? So you can see there, that side wall line is nice and straight with this line, okay? And now I'm going to close my under tabs. So I'm going to close the larger ones first. I'm just going to make sure that that hasn't shifted as I've been talking. So again, lift it up, closing my bottom tabs, closing my top tabs, and then creating that pinch at the top. okay? Now, I'm just going to take this off and show you how not to do it. So again, I'm going to open up my back, give it a little roll. Now, if I just put this form in here and close these tabs, this is how not to do it. Close these tabs, and they weren't even, okay, underneath. As we look at the form on top, you can see this side, you can see this bottom end of the form poking out from that top. That is going to give us a wonky, uneven enhancement, okay? And it's just not going to sit right. The structure of your nail, you can see, sorry Shelley, you can see that it's all sitting at the wrong angle. And that's all because we haven't fitted our tabs correctly underneath. So that's also something that you have to make super duper sure that you don't do, okay? So again, I'm just going to take this off, get a new form and refit it. So roll it between your fingers, pop it so it's nice and even either side, okay? Slightly adhere it, pop your thumb in, hold either side, pull up, closing that gap on the free edge on the form, looking down the barrel, making sure that it's nice and even, and then closing. Just need to tuck that in a little bit more. And then closing my bottom tabs. So they're nice and even, bring it up, pinch at the number 6 on that center line, and then close those tabs. So you can see those tabs are perfectly aligned, okay, and together. And when we look from the top, we cannot see these tabs coming out from underneath. They're not poking out. So it means that our center line is nice and center, both of our sides are nice and even, okay? And the balance of the enhancement that we put on top of this form is going to be bang on, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this tab here, which is what's going to anchor it to her finger, so that when we come to do our enhancement, it's not going to move anywhere. So her finger's really nice and snug in this form, okay? Now it's entirely up to you what you do with your back end. You can either tuck them in or leave them standing up. Personally, I just tuck them in like that so that they don't get in the way when we come to do this finger, okay? Now, depending on the length of the nail and obviously the shape of the nail is where we go to close our tabs. So it's down the barrel of the nail that you want to look to how you want your C-curve, okay? So depending on the length and the shape is where we would further close our tabs and pinch. So if she was going to a 2, I'd probably pinch down to a 4 so that we've got that really nice elongated C-curve down in that enhancement. And that is how to fit a form. But if your client is a nail biter, or if your client has got particularly high eponychiums, then you would have to tailor this form, okay? So we are going to pretend, if I just take this off again, we are going to pretend that Shelley's free edge is her hyponychium, okay? So what we would do, again, is open up our tabs, pop the form on, okay, and then draw around with our white gel pen that edge of her hyponychium, okay, to give us that shape in there. I would then take that form off and go in with my scissors and tailor that and cut it away. And then that has tailored if this was Shelley's hyponychium, that would tailor, so if we can just imagine that this is her hyponychium, and give us that perfect fit onto her nail, okay? And the same goes for nail biters. So again, I'm just going to grab another form. If your client is a nail biter, okay, and I could probably show you on this one of mine. So if I fit this form to this nail, you can see that we have got a gap here. Now, if we were to leave that gap there, again, product would seep down and come onto my skin. We'd get a big lump underneath, okay, and it's just not good. We don't want that. That will make the enhancement look ugly, and also here it's not fitting correctly, and here. So there's two things you can do. You can either come around here and cut out this tab here and make this hyponychium edge a lot flatter, okay? So if I just show you now, it is now tucking in to my side walls, but I've still got this gap here. Now, if we were to flatten this out more, if I just close this up, if we were to flatten this out more, we would have a gap here, and this would not sit correctly against my side wall, okay? So there's a way around it. I just grab. So I've taken this off of the backing paper, opening up my back end, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my tab, okay, and I'm going to pop it in here on the back, okay, and I'm filling in that gap because the hyponychium is so low. I am also going to cut out these tabs here to make it slightly flatter. So now I'm going to bend that, and it's going to need a lot of bending because we've reinforced it with our tab. And I'm going to come in here, line that up, close my tabs. This is obviously very different because I'm doing it on myself. Securing it underneath my finger, and you can see now I've got a really snug fit. There's no gap whatsoever, okay? I've got a really snug fit on these really low side walls that's really nice and straight with the line on my form on both sides, and I've also filled in this gap. Now when I come to put my acrylic or my gel on top of that, it's not going to touch my skin, okay? So that is the easiest way for nail biters to be able to tailor that form to fit their nail. Now obviously if my nails were really low down here, okay, so extreme nail biters, you would do exactly the same, and you would put that back tab in. So let me just get rid of that one. So again, you would get your form, you would get that back tab, you would pop it in, but slightly lower this time, okay? So we're filling more of that gap, opening up that back end. Now we're pretending this line is my free edge, okay? And you would put that much lower down so that these side wall points are tucking right in as much as you can, and then fitting the form in exactly the same way, tucking it underneath, and then you can sculpt out from there. Okay, so the most important thing to do is to get your side walls nicely tucked in and that there's no gap on that free edge. I also get a lot of people asking me about toenails and particularly wide nail beds. Now if that's the case, what you can do is you can tailor your forms. So I'm just gonna get 2 forms here, okay, and cut one right down the middle, okay. Cut that off as well. So we've cut one form in half, all right. And now what I'm going to do is cut out this middle grid system. Making sure that it's nice and even, okay? And then what you can do is get this, I'm going to take out that central tab, get this, line it up so that all your grid lines are in line with one another, okay? Take this one off, take out that central tab, line it up evenly on this side, okay? And then you can go in, cut this section out, and you have made a larger form, okay? Now what I would also recommend to do, so I'm just going to take this out, is to get the section that you've cut off, so the wings, cut that in half. I don't need all of that, okay? And just reinforce your join underneath, okay? So I've reinforced it. I can now bend it, treat it like a normal form. That can go on a toe, or if someone's got a particularly wide thumb, you can put that on and treat it like a normal form. So I really hope this has helped. I know that forms are an absolute minefield just by choosing them, so I hope I've given you a few tips and tricks on which forms to use and what forms work best and why to choose them. And also I hope that I have helped with how to fit a form effectively for lots of different nail types. If you have any questions, then please feel free to PM me on Facebook or comment below. And as always, if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you click the like button and the subscribe button and also the notification bell. And as always, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you very soon.